Striker Scorpion 82 is now sponsored by Warhammer Combat Cards, a card battle game featuring your favourite Citadel miniatures from the 40k universe. Build your army decks, dominate opponents in player versus player action, collect and upgrade cards to fit your strategy, improve their power and unlock unique traits. Choose from all 40k factions, take part in campaigns based on iconic 40k battles, rise to the top of the leaderboard and win glory. Free to download and play. Link is in the video description below or on the channel homepage, and by using the unique link it helps support the channel. Thanks and enjoy the game. Right, welcome to this complete army video. It is for the Tyranids. So in this video it's going to be 9th edition, 2000 points, the latest points values for the Tyranids. So I've had my Tyranid army for a long time. It's sort of reached apocalypse size now for our games, and you can see some of our apocalypse battles on the channel featuring the Tyranids. They've struggled in 8th edition and they are struggling in 9th edition as well. So what I've got here is a revamped and improved list. I think it should do a lot better than previous lists. There are some units that in this list here are there temporarily, whilst I'm sort of planning on painting up some other units just to swap out and replace them. But that's all open for discussion here in this video. The idea is to give you some ideas for list building for yourself. I'll share as much Tactica and battle plans and so on with you to help you out as you try and build your own Tyranid army and use them in your games of 9th edition for Warhammer 40,000. So I hope to release the top 5 units video for my Tyranids as well, so you can check that out. That should be live on the channel as well. So plenty of content there for you to look through for the Tyranids to get some inspiration for which units to use. Now you can copy this list exactly if you want to, try it out. Change it around. It really helps the channel if you leave a comment, so to add any comments it's always gratefully received. If you want to suggest changes, even the smallest of changes, things like war gear and warlord traits and so on, all the way through to big unit changes or entirely revamping the army, then all comments are welcome. And then I'll say at the start as well, if you can hit the like button then it's much appreciated. Also, so 2000 points Tyranids, I'm going to bring in, we'll build up the list, we'll talk a little bit about the battle plan and the theme for this Tyranid army. I usually try and build lists that are very sort of narrative and yet at the same time have a competitive edge. So that's the kind of balance that I'm going for. And I always want an army, whatever it is, to always give a sort of a good representation of what that faction is all about. So we'll get into the structure of the army in just a moment. So looking through the Tyranny Codex, it is meant to be an army that causes fear and terror in their opponents, so whoever they're up against, and it's an army that is very assault and up close and closing in. That's the scariest point. I've realised you do need firepower. The Tyranids, this army is going to feature a fair bit, but still really want that element of terrifying in close combat. So it's quite difficult because Tyranids have struggled here. They've struggled in the league and they seem to be struggling in general, the 8th edition and 9th edition, but still that's the challenge, to try and make an army that's feared on the battlefield, where people say, oh, I'm up against the Tyranids. It's a fearful thing. It should be the case, but it takes a fair bit of effort. So loads of Tyranid units just overwhelming the enemies. Are charging in here against Blood Angels, or one of their successor chapters, Blood Trinkers, I think. And they're meant to be scary. They're sharp teeth and claw aliens, so they should be terrifying on the battlefield. Here, all these bizarre and strange and monstrous creatures, slimy tentacles. So real as alien as you can get here. So just give you an idea of the feel of what the Tyranids should all be about. But really it should be the fear factor with them. But difficult to get that if you're not actually winning too many games with them. So that's the layout that Games Workshop have done, give you an idea of like a variety of all different types of monsters, and then this big never-ending swarmers wave of smaller infantry moving through at the front rank. So that's the kind of theme. I've mostly stuck to that, but you've sort of got to try and build an army that's going to perform well on the battlefield as well. So I sort of reached a bit of a compromise between the two, sort of narrative and yet functional on the battlefield also. So if you follow my Tyranid army along, you'll notice some changes. Some units are gone, some other units are on their way out. They're just about in this list, but when they're replaced by other units coming through, they'll be dropped, and then some other units to help enhance this new list. So the structure of the army, and we'll introduce the units one at a time and sort of explain why they're in the list and what they do. So I've gone for a battalion and then also a Spearhead Detachment as well. And I really want 2 separate detachments. It's going to cost in command points. My Warlord will be in the battalion. So you start with 12 command points for a 2,000 point army for 9th edition. It costs you 3 command points to take a battalion. If the Warlord's in there, you get those 3 command points back. So back up to 12, and then 3 points it costs to take the Spearhead Detachment. And then I'm not spending points on anything else. So I've got 9 command points in this list, which is pretty good, considering the fact I've gone for 2 detachments. So yeah, you might want to copy one of my detachments, not the whole army, but you might like the idea of one of the detachments that you see. You'll see why I've split the 2. It's to do with traits that you can give different detachments, and my 2 detachments have 2 different purposes. So for tactical reasons, I've split them. Split the army up into 2. So I guess in order here, we'll start with the battalion. So that is, we'll cover the Hive fleet first of all. So the battalion, which is the slightly larger section of the army, that is to represent the Tyranids in close combat. So this is going to be the close combat nasty part of the army. It's not so much shooting with these, but more close combat. So the key with close combat for the Tyranids is to try and get into close combat as quickly as possible. A lot of Tyranid units will be gunned down very, very quickly, and so you need to close the ground fast and try and get into close combat turn 1, turn 2 at a minimum. You can't be manoeuvring around the board because you'll just be vaporized very, very quickly. So to help out with that, I'm taking Hive Fleet Kraken. So with that, when a unit of this adaptation advances, roll 3 dice instead of 1, pick the highest result. So it's a massive improvement to your advance roll. And this is particularly useful for units like Gene Stealers, who are able to advance and then charge. So you've got an 8-inch move, 3d6 choosing the best for your advance, and then you're allowed to charge after that. So you're speeding up your army. In addition, such units can fall back and charge in the same turn. So again, helping them out in close combat. You find yourself in close combat against a vehicle, you don't want to be in there, you can pull back and charge something else. So that is very, very good. Tactically wise, good flexibility. So Hive Fleet Kraken. It also unlocks some very potent stratagems. They're quite cheap and exceptionally useful as well. So we'll cover that. It's all about different combinations that you can stack up to get the best out of your units. So bearing that in mind, we'll build this assault battalion up here. This is the battalion that's going to go on the attack. But I reckon now it's more of a not deploying your whole army and then charging up the board. This is more of a measured approach here and more of a tactical play with this setup. But we'll explain that as well. So Broodlord first of all. So he is here, like so, plastic version. I've got a couple of Broodlords, got one of the old metal ones, but this is the larger plastic version just here, the huge claws. So in and of himself, he's okay. Points cost for him is 125 points. For that, you're getting 6 wounds, strength 5, toughness 5. You've got 6 attacks. He's pretty good at assassinating characters if you can get him in. He's got a 4-up save and a 5+ invuln save. Just like Gene Stealers, he can advance and charge, which is useful. His movement is 8. And now if we apply Kraken to him, it's 3d6 choosing the best for advancing. So he's nice and quick. You've got 8 inches. Then usually you're averaging about another 5 for advance by the time you roll 3d6. Sometimes you get 6 and you can go nice and quick. So he's a Psyker. And what's useful is he is Synapse as well. So he's a useful HQ choice. I don't expect him to do too much. If the opportunity comes up, then yeah, you can plunge into a character and take them out. But usually I'll try and keep him alive and not be too reckless with this character because he helps Gene Stealers. Brood Telepathy, you can add 1 to hit rolls in the fight phase for Gene Stealer units within 6 inches of any friendly Broodlords. So 3s to hit becomes 2s to hit, and if you're attacking with dozens of attacks from Gene Stealers, 2s to hit is fantastic. So he's a real enhancement to Gene Stealers, which feature heavily in this list. So the Broodlord is in. you need 2 HQs for a battalion. So I did have a Tervagon in a list. I proposed a list on the Plus channel, and Tervagon was proposed. Another Psyker, tough monster, the ability to spawn Tervagants and so on. It's just here. But the way the rules work now, you've got to pay reinforcement points for those units that arrive. It just got all a bit not really worth it. I would have taken it probably if you could just get those units for free, but you don't. You have to spend reinforcement points on them, and it's just, I don't see the point in doing it. So Tervagon's out actually. I've actually dropped that and saved 210 points from the list I proposed on the Plus channel. So one HQ that is in, that is the Swarmlord. So always wanted to get the model. It's one of the best sculpts for the Tyranids in my opinion. It's a slightly newer model from Games Workshop. The plastic Hive Tyrant model and the Broodlord option with the, those 4 bone sabers. Fantastic. What I've done is just to make him stand out a bit more. Got some rocks from the garden, stuck them onto the base with super glue, and then stuck the model with super glue on top, and it just raises him up an extra ½ an inch just to make him a bit taller. And then he's been named as the Decapitator. He's just got a load of heads, Ultramarines, guards, skulls, Blood Angel heads, and some blood for the Blood God just splattered everywhere over that base, just to make him a bit more menacing, because he's meant to be something that's you're scared of on the battlefield. So there he is, just there. So some pros and cons of him. So it takes some tactical use for this guy with the Swarmlord. So we'll talk about that. So what you get, because he is expensive, 270 points. I swap out his Warlord trait, don't really use it. He's got a fixed Warlord trait where he can relocate before the game begins, don't really bother with that, never use it. So I've swapped his Warlord trait out for an adaptive physiology, and that's voracious ammunition, which I give to the Exocrine, but we'll cover that when we come to that unit. So with the Swarmlord then, no other upgrades or anything for him. You can't give him relics, he's a named character. You do get weapon skill 2+. Got 12 wounds, he's tough enough. 3 up save and a 4+ invuln save, which is good. That invuln save is improved to a 3+ in close combat, which is really good. So you can send him in against the toughest of targets, and then try and you should survive quite well. His movement 9 is actually quite quick. Strength 8, which is really good, and 6 attack. So in his prime, at his best, is really good. Between 4 and 6 wounds, he drops to 7-inch move, strength 7 and 5 attack, which is still really good, and his weapon skill is not affected. It's always hitting on 2s, and then 1 to 3 wounds remaining, still a 5-inch move at strength 6 and 4 attack, so decent enough. Now, here's a Psyker. He can manifest 2 psychic powers. So yeah, I'll cover this now. So the idea is that he takes on the toughest of enemy characters, say the enemy Warlord, say even Gilliman for example, he takes him on. The way to soften up that target is to blast them with psychic powers. So obviously he takes Smite. So let's just show you here. So you got Smite, and then the second, there's 2 options. Either the next after that is Psychic Scream, which is like a second form of Smite. So it's a warp charge value of 5. It's very easy to make sure it goes off. And if manifested nearest enemy unit within 18, suffers D3 mortal wounds, and there's some further damage you can do to Psychers as well. So it's like a double smite. You could strike the opponent with that before you charge in. And if you're up against an enemy character that's got a lot of invuln saves and stuff going on, then soften them up with mortal wounds first before you go in. I think it's a great idea. So I try and double up with a psychic power that's smite and psychic scream, just to dish out those extra mortal wounds before he charges in. So there's that one, and then the second power is between 2. If he doesn't take the second power, one of these options, then I'll give it to another Psyker in the army, even the Broodlord here, but one of them is Onslaught. It's a warp charge value of 6, again quite easy to make that go off. If manifested, I think I usually give this one to him because it's useful to him as long as he's alive, so it's worth him carrying it. If manifested, select for any Tyranids unit within 18 of the Psyker can select himself. This unit can shoot this turn even if it advanced without suffering any penalties to its hit rolls, moving and shooting heavy weapons, or advancing and shooting assault weapons. In addition, that unit can charge this turn even if it advanced. So now you've got with him a 9-inch move, a 3d6 choosing the best advance, and if that power goes off, which you'll need a 6, so it's worth keeping a command reroll on standby to take that test again, but it's quite likely that it's going to go off, then he will be allowed then to charge after his advance. You can actually make this monster move around the table very, very quickly. So you combine that with Hive Fleet Kraken, because you can't just lumber up the board 9 inches one turn after the next, because he's 12 wounds, he can't hide behind stuff, so the opponent can shoot him if they can see through to him. He's not going to be protected by screening units, so if he's going to go somewhere, he's got to go there quickly. So the other psychic power is Catalyst, and it's usually another psychic will have it and cast it onto him. If there's a point in the game where he really needs to survive, he's about to charge in against something really tough, a 5+ feel no pain. So you've got a 3+ invuln save in close combat, 5+ feel no pain. It's so helpful, it really does help with the durability. So 5+ ignoring wounds, and that's a warp charge value of 6, again quite straightforward to get that one to go off. So those are the kind of powers I'm thinking of. I'll maybe talk about some stratagems here and introduce them now. So this is a big one, Opportunistic Advance. Use this stratagem in your movement phase when you roll the dice for an advancing Kraken unit other than a unit that can fly. So he's on foot, he counts. You could double the number you roll and add that to your total move characteristic for that movement phase, rather than following the normal move rules for advancing. So you can really catch your opponent out. A 9-inch move, then you play Opportunistic Advance. You roll up your 3d6 choosing the best, and then say you get a 5, you then double that, so then you get 10 inches movement. And if your psychic power goes off, you can still charge. So, as I said, if he needs to get somewhere quick, there is the ability to do that, especially with Hive Fleet Kraken. So that one is very, very, very useful. And then other stratagems, you've got Adrenaline Surge, an infantry unit or a Tyranids unit from your army can fight again. That's very useful, but it's very expensive. And then there is there's Metabolic Overdrive as well, and this will give you more movement, but you're not allowed to charge after this one. So after you move the Tyranids unit from your army in the movement phase, you make a second move of that unit, including advancing if you wish. So you have to roll dice on the 1, you take a mortal wounds. It's very unlikely, but if you really need to get somewhere but not worried about charging, then Metabolic Overdrive is a very useful one as well. So there's rapid regeneration to restore lost wounds on him. Maybe worth that during the game. So you're starting to tell there's a lot going on with this guy, and so it's worth keeping him alive. So often you'll see in games that he's not going to do anything particularly reckless until perhaps the coast is clear. So you'll see him hiding turns 1, 2, 3 perhaps, and then if he is going to make a move, it's going to be turn 3, 4 and 5. As we've seen, he can move quickly, so that's not too much of a problem. If he was just stuck at 9 inches every turn, marching up the board, then that's not very effective at all. But combining it with the Hive Fleet and some other stratagems and so on, you can actually move up the table nice and quickly. So there's that. He's deadly in close combat. He's pretty good with psychic powers. So at the right opportunity, you'll see him emerge during the game, but it's at least turn 3 onwards usually. So before that, I'll usually hide him because he's got no shooting ability. So we'll just hide him away. He lurks and waits for the right time to pounce, which is all very narrative, very cool. So, his synapse is 18 inches rather than 12, fantastic. And then the big one here, Hive Commander. In each of your shooting phases, you can pick one friendly Hive Fleet unit within 6 inches of the Swarmlord. That unit can move and advance if you wish, as if it were the movement phase instead of shooting. So now we're thinking about Gene Stealers. So we'll introduce these in just a moment. But a unit of Gene Stealers, they have to be, you've got to remember, you've got to keep them close. So they find themselves within 6 inches of him. So at the back of the board where he's hiding, deployed and ready to go. Turn 1, you go 8 inches, 3d6 choosing the best for your advance, and then let's say he's in a position where you've got to maintain that 6 inches, then get to your shooting phase. You find yourself in 6 inches, 8 inches, and then 3d6 choosing the best again, because they're Gene Stealers, they can advance and charge. So a very, very quick move available with these. And then if you remember the stratagem, try and share all the tactical with you here to try and help you out. I think Tyranids need as much help as they can get here. So your Opportunistic Advance for Kraken. So that advanced move, say 5 inches each time, becomes 10. So you're looking at, I'll go all the way up here. So movement phase, 8 inches, Opportunistic Advance, so it's 10 or 12. You're lined up for another move and advance. You can only play Opportunistic Advance in the movement phase, so you can't play it again in the shooting phase, but you should be able to move up the board 25, 30 inches potentially in a turn, and then let loose with that charge. So that's very potent. It's a very popular option with Tyranid players, and if played right, I think it's superb. And your Gene Stealers, I've tried it in games. You can't just move out across the board turn 1, turn 2, and then hope to charge turn 3. You'll be destroyed by pretty much any army that's out there. You've got to get the charge in turn 1. It sounds really underhand and vicious and merciless, but that's the way you've got to play them. You've got to make impact on turn 1, turn 2 with these. So that's the way to play them if you're going to stand any chance of doing well. So we're spending a fair bit of time on the Broodlord, but he plays an important role. So first few turns of the game, he's sending off waves of Gene Stealers. It's very narrative, strong theme. He's hiding away, lurking in the shadows. And then turn 3, perhaps when the coast is clear and damage has been done, the opponent has less stuff left, then he moves out and selects his target and then goes for the kill. And he himself can move quick enough as well. So Swarmlord's in. So that's 2 HQ choices. So then we'll go on to troops here. And I did have, in the list I proposed from the plus channel, I had units of termagants. There's no termagants, so I've dropped both of those, 2 units of 50 points, or 2 units of 10 at 50 points per unit. They've been dropped as well. So what I've gone for is big units of 15 Gene Stealers. So with Gene Stealers, I was running, and we'll talk about tactics of these. If you're looking to make impact on turns 1 and 2, then logically I'm thinking 2 units of Gene Stealers should be enough. And the purpose of these is to strike on turn 1 with 1 unit, and then, or 2 if possible. If you can go for a combo of help from him, Opportunistic Advance and so on, then send in both by all means. But usually it's sending in 1 unit to make sure they get in a deadly charge, and then turn 2, the second unit, and then turn 3 onwards, the Swarmlord can then go and do his own thing. It's actually units of 16, so 240 points here with these. I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to send these out on a charge, then units of 10, units of 12, that's okay, but why not just beef them up and make them as potent as possible? Now, they are expensive, and that's why you don't want to lose casualties from moving and being shot at. You want to just deliver them to the opponent as strong as possible. So maybe we've got the Broodlord moving up the table as quick as he can to support them in their assault, try and give them their 2s to hit. But this is a nice bulky chunk of the army here, 2 big units of Gene Stealers. And again, that's the fear factor here. This is 1 unit that most opponents would be wary of. Gene Stealers have always had a reputation for cutting through stuff quickly. Nice size here. You get bigger than that, you're starting to push towards 300 points a unit. That is exceptionally expensive. But 240 points, it's big investments. You're expecting them to do well. So Gene Stealers then, when you're getting your strength 4, toughness 4, 3 attacks as base, which is incredible, but only a 5+ save and a 5+ invuln. So as I said, they get shot at, they'll be gunned down quickly, and as soon as they start dropping in numbers, their effectiveness really starts to evaporate. So big incentive to go for large units. Whilst you've got 10 or more models in the unit, you get an extra attack, so 4 attacks each with these. So you're looking at 16, 32, 64 attacks on the charge, which is, 2s to hit if you can get it. They should mash through pretty much anything, even vehicles, especially toughness 7 or worse. They should get through pretty quick. You can get them 4+ save. It's a bit of a waste, and because there's a lot of AP -1 stuff out there. They've got the 5+ invuln save anyway, and then you lose your swift and deadly. So it's better to keep them as they are at 5+ save and 5+ invuln, and then give them swift and deadly, which is they can charge even if they advance. That's the crucial bit for speed across the board. So we talked about their movement, how quickly they can go. With them, the large unit is a big benefit. You just get loads more attacks, which is well worth doing. They're going to move up with the Broodlord, so Synapse will cover them for morale if they are shot up, and he'll give them their +1 to the hit rolls. So turn 1, usually you can send it with his help, send in 1 unit and charge, and then turn 2, send in the next unit. And they're decent size, high impact units that just have immediate striking ability. Something else to mention. Here, for every 1 in 4 models, so we'll look here, somewhere, yeah, for every 4 models in the unit, 1 model may have flesh hooks and or an acid maw. It doesn't cost you any points, and the acid maw is strength user, which is strength 4, AP -3, so great for hacking down 1 wound models, or any models really, but AP -3 is really good. Other than that, you're relying on your rending claws, which is AP -1, just takes the edge off the armor, and then only 6s comes through at AP -4. But I would take the acid maws. AP -3 is excellent, and with 4 attacks each, that's going to be 16 attacks coming through at strength 4, AP -3. So it just adds to your dicing and slicing ability. So there's a real strong combo going on here. This is quite a popular combination for Tyranid players. So that's like a nice assault core of my army, but it's not a section, it's not a combination that's just going to march out in front of the enemy. It's one that's going to strike like lightning, 1 unit at a time, with the HQs tactically hidden away, and then he emerges later on to fight at the mid and late stage of the game. So now from within this battalion, something completely opposite, and for infantry choices, because I need 1 more, but actually taking 3 more infantry choices. After playing a good number of 9th edition games, now we're going for some tactical choices to try and win you points and ultimately to win the game. So whilst these are out causing damage, obviously in the game of 40k you're trying to destroy the opponent as much as you can, but also you've got to remember objectives and ball control. So I'm going to use Ripper Swarms for that, and it's 3 units of those, minimum size. So 3 units of 3, and I played a game with them recently. You can keep a lookout for it with the Tyranids. These have actually proved to be very useful in the game for a number of reasons. 3 reasons. First of all, they're cheap, very, very cheap. I think they're working out at, so you've got 240, 240, 270, 125 for him. Then the Ripper Swarms are coming through at 36 points per unit. So 36, 36 and 36. So very cheap, so it's not costing you too much. You can then put most of your resources into units like this. So that. Also is the low profile of these. They're quite easy to hide on the battlefield, out of sight and out of trouble. So that's useful if you're going to use them for holding objectives, and that's it. Other option I've used them for is to take the Linebreaker secondary objective. Whilst the opponent's fighting away, moving up the table, trying to take forwards objectives, you can deep strike these in at the back, inside the opponent's deployment zone in the later stages of the game, and then just pick up, get 2 units in, and then pick up your 4 points for Linebreaker every time, at the end of every turn. So they can reap points. You can deep strike them. That's the other option, is deep strike. And you can bring them into burrows here. So during deployment you can set them up underground, and they just emerge on the battlefield, the usual rules, more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So it means that they can emerge on the battlefield. If there's a quiet end of the table somewhere where they can hide away as an objective that no one's really gone for, you just pop them up, sit them on the objective, hide them away, and it just creates a headache for the opponent. You've got multiple units popping up and being used tactically. It can divert their forces away. And if not, if the opponent doesn't deal with them, then they can be used to harvest and bring in points. Or if your infantry squads are all pushing up, you can just bring these in on your backline and help to hold home objectives, again just hidden away. If they are shot at, they actually can take damage, because they've got 3 wounds per base. There's 9 wounds for the opponent to get through, so they will need to put in a fair bit of firepower to eradicate them completely. And if you've got Synapse nearby, morale's not going to be an issue for them. So a tactical choice of these. I don't want doing anything else in the game other than helping to control objectives and line breaker and stuff like that. So that's the option with them, and it's not cost you much in points to do it. So specialised units here for tactical uses during the battle. So a bit of a contrast between two. Their job's to kill stuff, their job's to rake in victory points. No other types of troops, hormagaunts, termagaunts, just are all out. It's just those two, killers and then objective holders. Them. So what else is in this battalion here? Yeah, there's a few. So what I'm going to show you now is two units that are actually on their way out of the list. One's a temporary, just playing in for fun. And then the other one is a unit I've previously had that hasn't been doing too well. So I'm going to introduce them, talk about why they're probably going out of the list and what I plan to replace them with. So just some swap out options here. So the first that I want to cover is a fast attack. So yeah, it's Raveners. So unit 6, the new plastic ones I've painted up. And we'll zoom out a bit later on, be able to see the whole army. Just to get an idea of what it looks like. But I'll bring the Raveners on. Looking something like this. Something like that. So 6 of those. So the advantages with these is speed. They can go 12 inches, which is nice and quick. They can advance, the hopefully Krakens, they'll get that, but they can't advance and charge unless the psychic power's played on them. They get 4 attacks, which is pretty good. So 24 attacks available from those on the charge, which is okay. They're strength 4, they've got rending claws, you have to pay for that. And then I give them death spitters, they've got a bit of shooting. So 3 shots each. So 18 shots available from them, hitting on 4s. Strength 5, so they can -1, you'll cause a few casualties, but that's where it's, they can deep strike as well, but then that's all good bits. But then what I found is they're a bit soft. They get blown away quite quickly. They're quite expensive. I think they're 30 points a model, so 180 points for this unit, for a unit that's not very durable at all. For speed, I'm pretty much alright for speed anyway, with the units I already have. Their firepower is alright, but it's not that great. So, and then in close combat, again, they're okay, but a unit of those is way better than them. If you're total, I mean, it's 60 odd attacks of those. 24 attacks at best with them. So, no invuln save. So I think the Raveners are out. I've been a fan of them for a while, but they just struggle in pretty much every game. So if I drop them out of the list, that's 180 points dropped here for them. So we'll just leave it there. We'll introduce the next unit and talk about that, and then we'll talk about what I could swap them out for. So the next one, a bit of a surprise, but sometimes you bring a unit out just to try it out. It is a Toxicrene. So not a very popular choice with Tyranids, but look at the model. It's incredible. The walking spaghetti monster. But a really bold sculpt from Games Workshop. I really rate the model. It's just incredible. A nightmare to move around the battlefield. Absolute nightmare. Picking up other models. Hard to put down. It bashes into walls and gets its tentacles wrapped around all the terrain. So it's a disaster. But what a feature to have in your army. So all of cool and having fun prevails with this one. So great sculpt. So he's in. Now, he's in as a distraction model, which he is. I mean, the opponent's going to notice this thing walking around the table. So he comes in at 150 points. It's quite cheap. Toughness 7, you've got 12 wounds. Do get 6 attacks, 3+ weapon skill. He's got 3 up saves. His stat line's not too bad. He's not too slow. He's got 8-inch move for a monster, is pretty good. Then what he's equipped with is quite mediocre. Choking Spores, range 12, assault D6, strength 3, AP 0, D3 damage. You get to reroll your wounds, no cover allowed, but it's quite poor. It's just D6 with that. Massive Toxic Lashes in close combat or shooting. You can fire with that as well. It's strength, range 8, assault D6, strength of the user, which is strength 7 to start off with. AP -2, D3 damage. You can fire it whilst you're in close combat. You can reroll failed wound rolls for the weapon as well. So that's okay, but again it's D6, and then the Massive Toxic Lashes is going to get 6 attacks at best, Strength 7 at best, AP -2 and D3 damage. Again, rerolling your wounds. You get to fight first. Here it's talking about you get to fight first here when you're fighting against units in close combat. He's got Acid Blood, so every time he takes a wound, and he is designed ready to charge and die. If he does take a wound it's on a 6, it's a mortal wound, so it's 12 attempts at that. And then Hypertoxic Miasma. At the end of the fight phase, a D6 for each enemy model within an inch, which I think should be a bigger bubble for that, not just an inch. It should be within 3 inches, for example. But every model within an inch on a 6, that model's unit suffers a mortal wound, and then he can explode and cause mortal wounds when he dies. So adding all that together is quite mediocre. He doesn't really do too much in close combat. But I've taken him as 150 points. He's just a standing unit for now. Big distraction, and I'll try and race him up the board as quick as I can and just make him as much of a nuisance as possible. So you can stick catalysts on him to make him more survivable. You can give him, he's in High Flake Kraken, so 8-inch move plus 3d6 choosing the best. Put Opportunistic Advance on him if it's available, and double that move. In a game recently I got a 20-inch move out of him and he got into combat on turn 1 with the help of that Psychic Power. Onslaught. So, and he just charged in. He didn't really do too much, but he was a menace and he blocked other units from moving, and the opponent had to deal with him, and it bought me some time on turn 1 to keep the opponent away from objectives. So it's more of a tactical play of him. There's no intention that he's going to bring whole units down and cause loads of damage, but he is a blob that the opponent's got to deal with and try and eradicate from the table. You can't just ignore him, and he can block the way and just get in the way of things and prove to be a big distraction for the opponent. And if they waste their time trying to bring him down, then it distracts them away from dealing with other units. So it's a tactical use for him. It's temporary standing, but for now just use him as a throwaway unit. Bringing him in the army because I just really love the model, and just trying to make the best use of him as I can. So if he's dropped 180 points, 150 points, and I've got a nice lot of points to play with. So what I'm thinking of going for is either a smaller or a larger unit. So I can go for a unit of 3 or a unit of 6, depending on what I want to do. I could go for, I'll show you what I'm going for here. I'll just show you what it is. It's a popular choice. I don't have the models yet, so I think they're elite. It's Hive Guard. Yeah, Hive Guard. Just here. So movement 5. Really, what you're going for? 3 wounds. Got 4 up save. Toughness 5. But all I'm taking for is the Impaler Cannon. So it's firepower I need. I think I can cause more damage with firepower from these than I can in close combat with them, and in close combat with him. So they work out at, I believe, 50 points each by the time you add in the Impaler Cannon. So the Impaler Cannon is a 36-inch range, so your range is fantastic. Heavy 2, so 2 shots each. Strength 8, AP -2, and D3 damage. Fantastic. And then it gets better here. This weapon can target units that are not visible to the bearer, so they act like mortars. In addition, units attacked by this weapon do not gain any bonus for their saving throws for being in cover, which is excellent because you have AP -2. So if the opponent starts getting cover on top of that, then it takes the edge off the firepower. But they can't get cover from that, which is brilliant. So it's a fantastic weapon. And then what's even better is their ballistic skill 3+ with these, which is fantastic. They're an infantry unit, so you can play the 2-point stratagem to let them fire again in the same turn, which is excellent as well. The 3 wounds, toughness 5, and the other great thing is you can hide them because they don't need line of sight to shoot. So a very, very durable unit with an excellent ranged weapon that doesn't need line of sight, and you can fire at everything. Heavy infantry, monsters, vehicles, flyers. It will cause damage against all those targets. So I'm thinking unit of 3 for 150 points, that will swap out here. Or a unit of 6, I think you can go for. Yep, max them out unit of 6. I'll give you 12 shots hitting on 3s, and they will cause trouble for whatever they shoot at. And if I swap them out for them, so it's a unit to hang at the back and just to blast away with their firepower. I think will be very useful indeed. So if I do take them, and obviously got to get the models and paint them up, I think I need to because they're a very popular choice, and it's a shame I don't have them in the army. So if I get those, then I could put them in the Hive Fleet Kraken, but there's no real benefits being in that battalion, or I could put them into this Spearhead Detachment. So they can go in either one. A slight advantage for them for going into this other Spearhead Detachment. But for now, it's Raveners. I'll use them. They can deep strike in and maybe grab objectives and so on. And the Toxic Crane, I've got a use for it, so it's not the end of the world. I can run this list as it is. Then as soon as the Hive Guard are painted up, then I can add those in. Now at this point in the video, if you think, because I've got about 330 points to play with here, if you want to suggest any other options, then I will definitely read through the comments. Try and choose units that sort of fit in with this list and help the idea that I'm going for. As if units I already have, or if you want to suggest a unit that you haven't seen in my army yet, then I could go for them. There's other artillery available, biovores and so on, or other units, or a close combat unit, or something else to fit in well with this Tyranid list. Then I'll definitely consider any options that you come up with. Maybe I could do a split. I'll get some Hive Guard and then another unit that a subscriber suggests. So that's all open for discussion for sure, as we try and make this list as effective as possible. So that's that battalion complete. So what we'll do is introduce this Spearhead Detachment. Spearhead is where you take an HQ choice and then it lets you take some heavy options. Now I could have incorporated this into the Kraken Battalion, but I really wanted to make them separate to take advantage of some benefits that are available here. So as you see, I've got my assault part of the army, but I found with Tyranids you must have some kind of firepower support in your list. And the mentality can be, well, I've got to go all assault, just going to charge the enemy, but you just get gunned down. You need some kind of counter firepower available. So I've gone for a Spearhead, and this is my monster artillery at the back of the board coming up next. So first I need an HQ choice. So a Neurophrope is in. It's hard to get a cheap HQ for the Tyranids. Neurophrope's a pretty solid choice. You've got 5 wounds, you've got 5 up save, but you've got 3+ invuln save. You can manifest 2 psychic powers as well, so that's all good. It's quite tough to get rid of with that 3+ invuln save. He's a character, so he can hide behind stuff as well. So his job is just to be the HQ, to supply the Synapse ability. And then the psychic powers, obviously Smite. And I believe you need to be careful with him because we're talking about a different Hive fleet now. And let's have a look here. Well, this is going to be interesting. Let's just double check the catalyst. Catalyst warp drive value 6. Select a friendly Tyranids unit. Yes, no Hive fleet requirement here. So I can give him catalyst. You can cast it onto members of another Hive fleet, no problem. That is, yeah, well, that's good news. So catalyst. And then I can give him Psychic Scream. Now, I'm already taking it in the army, but if either one dies, that power is still available if one of the others is alive. So you can double up the Psychic power. I think would be a good idea. Because the others, Dominion, no, not really. The Horror, yes, not really. Paroxysm, maybe. Yeah, possibly. It's the order of fighting in close combat with that one, maybe. Yeah, but sometimes it's worth doubling up on a power that's really good. So that's him. Nice solid HQ choice. He can just hide away. His job's just to smite and provide the catalyst and Psychic Scream, and he fulfills the HQ requirements. Now, we want some shooty monsters next. So we're going to our heavy supports. Here. Yeah, onto this page. So, I'll bring in the Exocrine first of all. He's been in and out of my Tyranid list, but he's back in and he's exceptionally useful. I think he's really, really good. I'll talk about the Hive Fleet first of all. So I take 2 Hive Fleet adaptations from the Psychic Awakening book, and it's all designed to help out these as much as possible and to make them survive for as long as possible as well. So the first one is called Biosphere Consumption. It's monsters in that detachment that are either on turn 1 or they've remained stationary on that turn receive a 6+ feel no pain. is exceptionally useful. I use the 6+, well, the 6+ feel no pain you get with the Drukhari really helps out, and so it's helped out a lot of times with the Tyranids as well, just to reduce the number of wounds coming through. 6+ feel no pain doesn't sound very much, but you got 10 wounds and this monster's in real trouble, and you roll those dice and you get 3 or 4 6s. It's a massive difference. So I get that, and then also I have Metamorphic Regrowth, which is an automatic regenerate a wound at the start of your turn, and that's to all the monsters. So if all 3 monsters are taking wounds, they're all going to increase their wounds by 1 at the start of your next turn, and that really helps. We're all just stacking those things up to try and keep these artillery alive for as long as possible, because they don't have any invuln saves, and so often damage is just pouring in against them. So I'm going to try and negate that as much as possible by restoring wounds and negating wounds with the 6+ feel no pain, and it's definitely helped out, so it's heartily recommended as a combo to go for. So with the Exocrine, the Warlord trait that I've not given to him, I've then instead taken Voracious Ammunition. That means that if he's caused wounds against a target, or caused casualties against a target that he's shot at, then at the end of the shooting phase it's a further D3 mortal wounds caused. It's just a little bit more of a sting with his firepower. So that's on him. And then the actual firepower that he has is really good. He's a toughness 8 monster with 12 wounds. He's got 3 up save, so he's tough enough. That toughness 8 really helps out. You know, things like bolt rifles and so on are wounding on 6s, which is really good. The bioplasmic cannon is brilliant. It's range 36, heavy 6, so not D6 shots, but guaranteed 6 shots coming through. Strength 7, -3, and 2 damage. So he's a real good Primaris killer with damage 2. And killing Marines. Now, with the new rules coming out, 2 wounds each for firstborn Marines, so damage 2 is very useful. Now there's some better bonuses coming up here. Symbiotic targeting. He starts on a 4+ ballistic skill, which never gets worse than a 5+. If he sits still, then it's +1 to the hit rolls, so he then becomes usually 3+ to hit with those shots. And if he also sits still, then he can shoot twice. So 12 shots a turn potentially available from him. So he's just designed to sit there, get his 6+ feel no pain, regenerate a wound every turn, then chuck out 12 shots, coming at strength 7, AP -3, damage 2. So really good against medium heavy infantry. He causes damage against vehicles. He can, let's look here. There is a stratagem here that you can use on him. Pathogenic Slime is quite expensive, it's 2 command points. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase. Select a Tyranid's monster from your army and increase the damage of its attacks by 1 for this phase. So you go from damage 2 to damage 3 if you really need it. So, Exocrine's in. That's my medium heavy infantry killer. Then for my anti-tank is the Tyranny. Fantastic model. It's a beautiful model. Look at that thing. Just really, really good. It's the same kit as the Tervigon. You can go for Tervigon or Tyranny options. And I got 2. So you have these huge things at the back. Tactical use for these, just march them out and plonk them on top of objectives and just sit there. Firepower. Sitting there every turn, just blasting over firepower. 6+ feel no pain, auto regen a wound, and just kick out that firepower each turn and hold on to the objectives is the idea of them. So I usually set them up for 9th edition. Objectives are sort of spread out, they'll just be distributed around. So I used to run Venom Tropes where you're trying to get -1 to hit rolls against units, but then in 8th edition you could pack your army in to take advantage of that for as many units as possible. That's not as viable now for 9th edition. The way the objectives work and the missions work, your army's having to spread right out to hold on to various objectives, and so the bubbles of multiple benefits is there's not as many units nearby to take advantage of that. So I don't bother with that kind of stuff now. It's just ploughing the points into units that will be spread out all across the board. Now 14 wounds with these, and toughness 8, and a 3 up save. So there's a lot of wounds the opponent to try and get through with them. And then there's no minus. There are monsters. There's no minus to hit rolls here for bio tank. moving firing heavy weapons. I think that's gone away for 9th edition now anyway. And if he does remain stationary, he gets to fire twice. So double shooting available from him. And he's an objective holding unit, anchoring unit at the back, so he should be sitting still for most of the game. And the rupture cannon is excellent. It's range 48, so you're going to cover the board, no problem. Heavy 3. And the other great thing is the height of these, they can see over a lot of terrain, so you can target stuff that's quite well hidden away. As you shoot twice, it's strength, it's heavy 3, so again, it's not heavy D3 or heavy D6, it's just, you know what you're getting, it's 6 shots. Remember, you're doubling that if you sit still, so 3 shots and then 6 shots if you sit still. So, just very reliable quantity of firepower. If you do hit, ballistic skill is 4+, it never gets worse than 5+. Then it comes in at strength 10, so you're getting that 3s to wound whatever the target is, and then at least, and then AP -3, so nice bite there off the armor, and then D6 damage. So toe to toe, these will take on a Lehman Russ. They'll take them on, yeah, with a fair chance of destroying that Russ, and a fair chance of surviving a turn or 2 at least. And you fire 6 shots with that caliber back at a Russ, you'll cause trouble. So in a firefight, pretty good. Points then, should have covered this. 95 points now for the Neurophrope, 170 points for the Exocrine, and then with Stinger Salvos, which are now 0 points, the Rupture Cannon's 20, these work out 210 points each, but they're a solid choice, a good anchoring unit for your army, and their long range supporting firepower is excellent. I've got 12 shots potentially coming in here per turn at strength 10 -3d6 damage. That is excellent. Plus the Exocrine available, and then potentially in the future, plus Hive Guard support with their long range firepower as well. Massive advantage of the Hive Guard, you get towards the later stages of the game and your opponent's got a few worn out units left that are small, but they're holding on to objectives and they're hard to get to, and you've run out of resources for close combat, then you can just snipe away at them, firing over the top of buildings with the Hive Guard, not needing line of sight. So very good tactical firepower available from them. They would hang around at the back with these, or sort of deployed quite high up initially and then just sit tucked behind terrain, just distributing that firepower wherever it needs to go around the battlefield. And I think the addition of the Hive Guard will really enhance this list. So I think that's everything here. Again, pathogenic slime, you could do that, d6 +1 damage, but not really. But that's an option you could go for with them. But that's the list here for the Tyranids. If you want to suggest any changes, maybe you want to change the Hive fleets around, change the structure, certain units you drop out, units that you'd add in, then by all means leave that in the comments section below. If you're new to collecting Tyranids, I hope this has helped you out. Again, check the comments section, see what experienced Tyranids players are saying. They'll be sharing some of their own Tactica and unit choices, and ways to use them in games in the comments section. So check that out as well to see what other Tyranid players are saying. If you like the colour scheme for these, there is a painting tutorial for the Tyranids on the channel, so you can check that out in the painting tutorial section. And then over on the Plus channel there is an in-depth painting tutorial where I show you how to paint one of the monsters, one of the more challenging projects. Cover all the basing techniques, washes, how to do this chitin armour here as well. That's all covered in that video. So what we'll do now is we'll zoom out and we'll take a look at the whole army just so you can see the footprint of how it looks. Alright, so that's the army laid out here for the Tyranids. So these large units of Genestealers are nicely bulk the army out, but I'm not expecting them to last too long in the game. Turn 1 to charge in, do their damage, and then probably be destroyed, and then across their turn 2 going in, causing trouble as well. There's a lot of destruction hoping from these as they go in, to be enhanced there and helped out with the Broodlord. There's the Swarmlord. He's designed to hold back, send in the waves of Genestealers, and then emerge later on to move up and fight. And then some decent support coming through from my long range artillery beasts, so 2 Tyrannofexes and the Exocrine. A sort of a throwaway distraction unit for now is in the list with the Toxocrine, the Raveners, objective grabbing, bit of firepower available from those, bit of speed also, and then my It's really tactical use for these little Ripper Swarms to take objectives and then go for the Line Breaker secondary option that's available in 9th edition as well. Then Neurothrope just enables me to take that Spearhead Detachment with the enhancements for the artillery, the Broodlord to help out those, and then the Swarmlord there as the Warlord to get stuck into close combat when the time is right. So there's two parts to this army. You've got the assault section, and then to really help them out is the supporting artillery that forms part of this list as well. So that's the list for the Tyranids. Leave your own comments and suggestions. How well do you think this list will do? What units would you add in? What would you take out? Tactical changes, war gear changes, psychic powers, warlord traits, and so on. All of those things can be discussed in the comments section below. Any comments, greatly appreciated. It actually helps the video out. And hit the like button. That helps the video also as well. Keep a lookout for more complete army videos. This is the one for the Tyranids for 9th edition at 2000 points. There's more complete army videos on the way, and then be sure to check out the top 5 Tyranid unit choices video as well. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.